rest of the world. Okay, so the idea of multiculturalism basically, in the case of India, can say is well synchronized with its historical and social evolution of the idea of nation. And when we talk of the Indian democracy, we know that it has survived for more than 7 decades successfully, despite the fact that there were many ominous predictions to the contrary. And similarly, the Indian tradition, when we talk of the Indian tradition, even it has survived for thousands of years, okay, despite some periodic setbacks and recent challenges, which were a part of the this entire tenure. So its social diversity has proved to be its strength, basically. In fact, it has been its structural principle. So, and added to these, its stability and continuity has made it functional at every level, be it the social level, or be it at the political level, or for that matter, even the cultural level. Okay. So, India's experience of, you can say, of living together with different religious faiths, of accommodating and accepting diverse ethnic groups and languages. It might not have that linguistic denomination of multiculturalism, but the fact is that India happened to be one of the first countries to have celebrated this idea of cultural pluralism as a way of living. So we may give it different markers like unity in diversity, or cultural pluralism, or living together separately, or we may call it religious neutrality, and of late we address it as multiculturalism. Okay, so these linguistic denominators, they may vary from country to country, but the ancient civilizations like India, now they might not carry that burden of those modern markers like multiculturalism and secularism, but they have lived that experience. They have lived with that experience. And it is well known that each language, it has its own history. It has its own geography, own symbols, and a specific cultural context. So one language differs from the other, not only in sounds or intonations or the meaning that it conveys, but also in its worldview. Okay. So each language that we have over here, it looks at the universe in a particular manner and translates its own meaning in a very special way. So this subcontinent, it has become home to an array of languages and spiritual creeds, and also various literary, intellectual, musical, and artistic traditions, along with diverse political philosophies, economic systems, and ways of living. So we can say that the Indian system, it perhaps believed in the Rig Vedic dictum, what we call as Anu Bhadra, Kratavyanti Vishvata. That is, let noble thoughts come to us from all sides. Okay. So as a social reality in India, inclusiveness and accommodation, they were celebrated as a way of life. Okay. So where we have different communities like Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, the Parsis, and many other ethnic communities, they all have continued to coexist for many centuries. And now it only celebrates the multicultural nature of its ethos. Okay. Here I would like to add Asim Roy, a philosopher. He says that the Indian ethos operated on a system of fission and fusion, like India's social diversity, okay, and pluralism had always been its strength. It was a vast mosaic of, cross-cutting divisions of class, the caste, the tribes, religion, and so on. So each social compartment was more or less, you can say, insulated from the other, and it was compartmentalized. So in this sense, the society functioned on the principle of fission. On the other hand, the principle of fusion was also operative in that they were competing and interacting groups and interests, which held the balance of order and stability. So the Indian society, it had not been organized on the basis of a single mega circuit system. Okay, but it was a multiple circuit system. It was a multiple circuit system wherein, say, there is a breakdown in one circuit, it would keep the others going. So, as a linguistic construct, or you can say as a political policy, we can say that multiculturalism was officially introduced, say, 5 decades back in Canada, where it acknowledged its cultural and ethnic diversity. Okay, but in our country, it was being practiced since ages. Okay, and the social and political philosophers, when they saw this concept of multiculturalism spreading in different countries all along the globe, they were of the view that this concept was crucial to social humanism, which would help in building up an egalitarian society. Talking about in the Indian context, the Indian anti-colonial leaders while they were fighting for the freedom, and they were participating in the freedom struggle movement, while devising strategies for its independence, they were also trying to come to terms with the idea of India. Okay, so what constitutes Indianness and what unites India were issues that were raised time and again, and many answers were attempted towards it, like its diversity, which proved to be a pillar of strength in the Indian ethos. Similarly, tolerance. It was the basic ethic of the Indian society. Okay, and that also proved to be affirmative value to a multicultural democracy. Here, it would not be wrong to give an example of Emperor Ashok. Okay, more than 2,000 years ago, it can be said that he was the champion. He was the first to champion this cause of religious and other kinds of tolerance in the 3rd century BC. And he is the earliest political defenses of tolerance anywhere. Similarly, we can also mention the Emperor Akbar, who followed a similar path of tolerance. Then in the 20th century, we have Jawaharlal Nehru, who also equally emphasized the unity and diversity in India. So we see that the desire to seek freedom in India was different from the aggressive and egoistic sentiments and approach of the modern nations. So in India, the roots could be traced to its cultural traditions and the various dialects and languages of India. Despite their distinctiveness, they shared an inherent unity. And this could, never obstruct the idea of the growth of national unification. Even intellectual thinkers like Tagore was of the view that when he looks to India's past, he said that a system that's a tradition of coexistence of diverse faiths was the basis of the Indian system. And similarly, Gandhiji's non-violent nationalism, even that was in tune with the traditional Indian way of pursuing non-aggressive or non-imperialist policy. He also believed that India possessed a civilizational unity long before the British arrived. Okay. And he even warned India against imitating the practices of the European nations for that matter. So when we recall the ideas of the freedom struggle, the Satyagraha movement, the non-violence, so they were all viable modes of struggle, and the subsequent independence of India from the colonial rule and the making of the constitution. So they were all processes of and pointers to the continuing tradition of dialogue and debate, which is the bedrock of cultural pluralism. So here it needs a mention that the role and participation of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in the making of India, it actually needs a mention, and he stood a case in point. And had it not been for his intervention at crucial times, that perhaps Indians would not have enjoyed the status of a successful democracy that we are bestowed with now. So now Dr. Ambedkar was faced with the daunting task of translating our history and its lessons into the constitution. But and it was no small achievement that Dr. Ambedkar accomplished this task with gusto, you can say. So, talking about the Constitution of India, we see that it is a fine reflection of the Indian cultural mosaic. And it is a practical demonstration of the continuing dialogue tradition that we have had. So, while recognizing the rich diversity, it also gave equal rights to all the citizens, irrespective of creed, color, region, language, religion, whatever. So the idea of inclusive pluralism has been institutionalized and given a codified constitutional sanction. So it enshrined into rights and its principles the way of life of the people. So as a mark of tolerance and coexistence, the minority communities, they were given the right to preserve their culture, follow their own religious practices, and also looking at the plight of the subalterns, some constitutional guarantees were provided to them related to education and jobs. There were dialogues recognized as part of the social cultural discourse that paved the way to a healthy social practice, that paved the way to religious amity and also cultural inclusiveness. So we can say that without terming it as multiculturalism, the Constitution has celebrated its spirit in earnest. And we know that India was born as a postmodern state when it attained freedom. And even then, there were many predictions that how would India survive such a cultural diversity? And the world was eager to announce that India will not be able to, and it was waiting for a collapse of India, for that matter, that it would not be able to face the challenges that are posed by diversity. But what the reality is, we all know. It is entirely different. And as a multicultural democracy, India has stood the test of time, despite some occasional pitfalls and some its shades of historical hurt that has been a part of it. But still, India has come out of them, successfully. So one finds that it adopted a middle path, be it in the cultural field or be it the religious matters. And this balanced path showed a way of living with them comfortably. And we know that all religions, their gods are the same. Their preachings are the same, maybe in different styles, different languages. So our practice, our way of life has given scope to us scope of dialogue to us and given us the teachings of how to coexist with others. So we need to thank our respective religious teachings and our respective gods for that matter. So even our practice of secularism, it is also not anti-religion, but advocates equal respect to all religions, what we call as Sarva Dharma Sambhav. So it is a distinct socio-religious philosophy that is enshrined in the constitution that allows us religious neutrality, what we call as dharma nirpekshta. So the people of the country they have avoided extremes at crucial times, thanks to our religious and our cultural traditions. They have learned to live within that diversity. And the fact is that Indian unity is in fact a repudiation of their extremities. So where on one side we have seen arguments that divide nations, India is united by the variety. And the common man has shown his discretion and wisdom a number of times. And despite some disturbing incidents that have taken place in the past, and even that is history, that have been part of the history throughout, still, we see that the middle path that the Indian culture adopted, that has not been shaken anyhow. So coming towards the end of my talk, I would say that what today we need to learn is as a bigger approach is that in order to save mankind, we have to learn to live together in concord, in spite of the traditional differences of religion, civilization, class, and anything else for that matter. So we are blessed with such a rich tradition, Indian tradition, that we have so much to learn from it. And taking our lessons from the same, we can follow that idea of cultural diversity or unity in diversity. Okay. And we see that the story of India's culture, it actually unravels the secret of that vitality and that wisdom. So we see that it is a story of unity and synthesis. It is a story of reconciliation and development. It is a story of perfect fusion of old traditions and new values. So the only thing that truly links us, the Indians today, is a first-hand and constant knowledge of diversity. So today, I feel that we need to share this responsibility of carrying forward our rich traditions and our old age idea of unity and diversity, which perhaps forms the basis of the Indian democracy. And thereby ourselves make us citizens and our nation proud. That's all what I have to contribute in this talk. I would like to thank you all for a patient listening. Thank you, Anukriti, for giving me this opportunity of sharing some ideas with you all. And you really have been doing a commendable job for the past 14, 15 days organizing this event. Special thanks to you. And once again, thank you to the entire Ella Foundation team, our chairman, Professor R.P. Singh, Dr. Alka Singh, who have been a constant source of guidance for all of us. Thank you so much. It's over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Kulwant Singh ji. It was, very elaborate for your very elaborative and descriptive talk. I'm really thankful to you. Very briefly, I would like to highlight the key points of your talk. That you talked about the essence. The essence of your talk was deeply derived from Rig Veda's diction. That let noble thought come from all sides. You talked about the idea of multiculturalism, how our tradition has been rich. Since ages, and similar ideas has been also been adopted by our constitution. In fact, you very clearly pointed out that the idea of cultural diversity is the pillar of our democracy. मूविंग आपने अंबेडकर जी की बात कही, गांधी जी की बात कही, टैगोर जी की बात कही, all of them they supported the idea of multiculturalism, secularism, tolerance in their times. And this is how the roots of our tradition has been so long, so old age. And overall, your talk was about the multiculturalism and how our Indian tradition is a pillar to the Indian democracy. Thank you once again, Dr. Kulwant Singh. It was very nice to have you, the Secretary of Ella Expressions in Languages and Arts Foundation. I am really honored and humbled, by your presence and talk. So आज जैसे कि in the continuation, I would like to say that today is 30th of September. On behalf of the foundation, I take this opportunity to pay tribute to the work of all the languages on this International Translation Day, that is today. And on this special day, I would like to share the translation of, William Wordsworth poetry, I Wandered Lonely as a Cloud, by the president of this foundation, Professor R.P. Singh sir, as, translated as Badal Sa Main Ud Gagan Mein. So I would just like to read that in just 2 minutes. I would like to read that because it's very close to my heart. So बादल सा मैं उड़ा गगन में, नीचे कितनी हरियाली थी, बादल जो तैरा करता है नीचे घाटी और पहाड़ी, और वहाँ पर पुष्प डैफोडिल झील किनारे तरु के नीचे नृत्य करे रहे भरकर खुशियाँ, मलयज की भरपूरी मस्ती, सुरसरिता में ज्यो तारा की दुधिया पथ पर दमक निरंतर, खाड़ी के तट पर कुछ वैसे एक असीमित पंक्ति बिछी थी, उर्जित खुशियाँ लिए झूमते मेरे दृष्टि ले समेट एक नज़र में 10,000, लहरें नृत्य मग्न थी तत्पर लेकिन इनकी चमक अग्रतर, ऐसे सुंदर संग प्राप्त कर कवि क्यों कर रहता हर्ष छुपाकर, मैंने विहल होकर देखा यह दृश्य निधि बन जो सम्मुख था, अक्सर जब अपनी सया पर खाली साया भाव छेड़ मैं होता हूँ, ये मन की आँखों से सजकर एकांत हर्ष लेकर आते हैं, और जानते हो क्या होता, और मेरा आनंदित होकर नृत्य डैफोडिल संग करता है, उधर वो पर्दा हटे बहने लगेगी खुद हवा, हर तरफ जाने न कैसे बंधनों की होड़ है, अभी कल भी उठी बादल बिना बरसे टली गई, क्या खबर है आज भी फिर हवाएं कैद हो, चंद लोगों के इशारे पे बना मजमून सब, और वो कहता है वो बोझ ढोते चूर हैं। सो इनके अनुवादक रहे प्रोफेसर R.P. सिंह सर। मैं आपके साथ जो जिनकी पोइट्री आज साझा की। सो थैंक यू, माई स्पेशल थैंक्स once again I would like to thank the secretary today we have as a speaker, and thank you Dr. Seb, and my special thanks to the erudite, to all my erudite participants. The event would not have been possible, and have not been possible without your support and presence. So thank you one and all for making this event a grand success. So मैं आप सभी के लिए अंत में फाउंडेशन की तरफ से आभार गीत प्रस्तुत करती हूँ।
जीवन पथ पर जैसा भी क्रम, सम्यक चिंतन बढ़ते जाना, सम्यक चिंतन बढ़ते जाना, सम्यक चिंतन बढ़ते जाना। सम्यक चिंतन दृष्टि हमारी और सुगमता ध्येय हमारा।
Thank you participants. Thank you one and all. You could sign off. I'm ending the meeting here. कल हम लोग दोबारा 6:30 बजे जूम पे दोबारा मिलेंगे. Thank you.